time, weather.
Now for the Forge Podcast. Question for you. What's the power of your testimony if it's never shared? This is the Forge Podcast.
A ministry of Scottsdale Bible Church.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is getting good. I think you said something like, I was a meth addict, but I wasn't an alcoholic, right? And take it from there.
Yeah, so dangerous way to start reasoning through things. But I first believed in myself and then started to convince others that, hey, I was a meth addict, but I never really had a problem with alcohol. When in all reality, I was a sex addict who used any and everything to just make that better. But since I decided I wasn't an alcoholic, I picked up bourbon. And all the people around me, by that time the ministry was very influential. All my donors and my board members, they would drink like normal people, like a lot of people in the church and like normal people do. And so I thought, well, I'm pretty normal. This is who I'm hanging out with, and I'm not spending as much time with the guys in the program. My primary job is raising money, and so I'm in more boardrooms than ministry rooms at this point. And so the bad news is I decided in the summer of 2012 that I could try it, and then it worked. Meaning I woke up and I wasn't a raging alcoholic the next day.
Bourbon worked, huh?
Bourbon worked. Well, there's always this fear when you're in addiction that if you have one of whatever your drug of choice is and it's on, and you just, it happens really fast, which is usually the truth. And so I believed this thesis that I wasn't an alcoholic. I drank bourbon, woke up the next day and was just normal. I went to work and I was still running the ministry and I still loved God and I still loved my wife and I was like, see, we knew it. And my wife's like, sweet, because this is a more fun version of you anyway, because sometimes sobriety is not that easy. And so there we went.
So, okay, hold on. I love that she's like, sweet, it worked.
Yeah.
What was the conversation before? Like, hey, honey, let's try this.
Yeah, well.
Did you convince her, or was she like, I think you're right? Were you guys just agreed together? You're like, yeah, that makes sense. Or did you have to convince her?
Not totally. I think that she saw staying completely abstinent and sober is not easy. It's really not. Mentally, it's not easy. It takes work every day, and it's exhausting. And her and I had been married for 5 years at that point, and she had seen the exhaustion of what that work takes. And so when I came to her thinking that I had found a more enlightened way to live, she had known me in college when I used to party anyway, and so she knew what a more fun version of me looked like. Right. Fun being, let's put those in some air quotes. Sure. Fun till it's not. And so it wasn't too hard of a sell at that point. She knew me so well that who I was pretty solidified. Chase God, run a ministry, that kind of thing. And so we went into it together. For better or worse, we're best friends through all of it. And so we knew what we were getting into, and if anything, she was gonna help keep me safe. And between me, her, and God, we were going to work this out because you couldn't tell too many people, because especially kind of in the recovery world, it was taboo for sure. So eventually, I started needing to. Again, this is looking back. I didn't have this clarity then and know how manipulative I was being, but I started to convince all the people around me that I was a normal person too. Meaning, I would, whether it was the people who were responsible for me, so board members, donors, etc. Because if I could show them that I could normally do it normally, then it reinforced the fact that I believed that I could do it. And at the end of the day, I got to do what I wanted to do. Again, that's backwards in looking with clarity. At the time, I really believed what I was doing, and so I really thought that I was okay. I really did. It was pretty dang innocent in the beginning. I loved my life, wasn't looking to be in addiction again by any means. But thought that I had stumbled on the cheat code of an enlightened way to live for someone that's been in recovery. And I was honestly was kind of preaching it to people who would listen. Like, I was really like, anytime I get something good, I want other people to have it. So I was like, man, like, we have a new identity in Christ. We're not addicts anymore. Right. Like, this was not our thing. And so I knew I couldn't go do cocaine or meth because that was going to turn something on in me that couldn't be. What I found looking back is that our enemy is extremely patient. And so this ended up being a 10-year journey where my enemy was really patient. So he planted some things inside of my life that worked for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. But the landmine of the drinking was planted in there because I've mentioned it a couple of times, but my real addiction was anything sexual addiction in any form. And so what ends up happening over time was my enemy is looking for the right circumstances in my life to happen to where it's the bomb's planted in there already. Like he's already made it past the gates. And so the way that ended up playing out was it went great meaning things weren't blowing up. Ministry is thriving. I mean, I'm on speaking in stages in front of just thousands, millions of dollars are coming in.
Is this a national organization at this point?
No,
or is it still just local to Georgia?
Yeah, it's all in Georgia, but it was getting really some more national recognition because we had found out how to create a model that nobody else had really figured out how to do. But it was amazing. It was getting a lot of notoriety, and so it's going really well. By all things on the outside, Edwards is a success. On the inside side, it was starting to deteriorate. The people that worked closest to me, my closest friends, were starting to lose respect gradually because work ethic was going down. My character was eroding. So slow with some of this erosion, I don't even think I recognized it. By that time, I just was, addiction will put you in denial. And so I was in denial with a lot of things. So flash forward to my late 30s, something along the lines of a midlife crisis starts to hit. And by that time, things started to really ramp up. When I started to really struggle with an identity crisis, something about turning 40 was starting to really wreck me. I was having a moment there. And because the partying was in my life, it just started to go up. And so now we had this kind of countering arcs of the ministry success is just like hockey sticking up. And then my private life with addiction was doing the same thing. And working in ministry go ahead.
What was your wife's thoughts through this towards the end of it? Like what?
Towards the end of it, she was seeing, we had kind of created this thing to where, again, it's the perversion of a really healthy belief. So in recovery, secrets kill. And so you've got to be known. That's the backbone of our recovery community is you're transparent and you're accountable and you get called out. And so this idea that if I have a bunch of secrets, then I'm in trouble. But again, looking back with clarity, I didn't know that I was leading my wife towards me doing what I wanted to do. But the malformed or perverted good truth that I was doing was as long as my wife knows everything, I'm known, it's not a secret, we're good. And so we had this wildly open communication through the whole thing. And so we had come to believe like our private life is our private life, and we know each other and I am known and I'm not hiding anything from her. And so it was a lot of fun. We'd have the success of the ministry, but then we'd go out and we'd have a great time. And so she, but towards the end, it started to become very clear that she realized that I was in my addiction even before I did. I remember at one point she came to me and said, "Hey, do you think this is?"
Nope, absolutely not.
She'll tell this story and she'll be like, and I got pissed at her. And she remembers it more than I did because I was in denial and she was, not at the time.
Yeah.
Super pissed at her. And then it started to kind of progress to where it was just getting bad. And I knew she wanted to be, I had led her into it, and I knew that she wanted me to rescue her and lead her out of it. And then we were getting up to that point to where we're so in love and we're so best friends, but she's also a mom of 2 girls. And she was getting pushed towards that cliff of decision or kind of that crossroads. If he doesn't, then I'll have to. If he's not going to lead us out of this, then I'll have to protect the girls from it. And so we were getting really, really close to that. And then the closest we were getting, I think, was I love this ministry so much. We were getting to the point to where the very, very familiar story that if you've been around ministry of the leader falling to scandal and how that rocks a ministry, we were any day from that on borrowed time.
And you could see that yourself?
100%. I remember I used to see so many leaders fall and go, why wouldn't they just leave? Like, why would they just stay around? And I woke up one day sitting in the basement of our house going, my wife desperately needs to be rescued. And at any moment, that moment could happen. I'm now that leader. And that was, again, another terrifying moment. Flashback to my 20s when I'm sitting in that house and knew I had to run for help. So I had that muscle memory of my 20s of, I'm in trouble, run for help. And it was that same moment then of the ministry's in trouble because of me. So I need to save it from me. My family's in trouble because of me, and I got to run. I got to run for help.
The ministry was in trouble. Like, it was still thriving, right? But it was in trouble if you got found out.
I was the threat to the ministry.
It could have crumbled if you were.
Yeah, most ministries in most ways don't recover, especially earlier in their life. Yeah, and so that was the moment. So I went to them being the people, my board, and shocked them. And again, it's all looking back with clarity. At that time, I speak with it with more clarity than I had even then. I just knew that things were bad. God started to open my eyes to the denial that I was in, even in that moment, throughout the following years. But I went to them and said, I got to go. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, everything's going great.
Right.
Like, what do you mean you got to go? I was like, I have to leave. I'm going to sell my house, and me and my wife and kids are going to move into an RV, and we're going to go travel. And it made no sense to them. I told some version of the story, and in fairness, I wasn't telling the whole thing, but I was also so in denial that I was believing a lot of what I was saying. And, this is the only thing I'd tell something like, this is the only thing I've ever done in my life. My whole adult life has been this. Feel like there's we want to go do a new thing. Let the next person take over, which was true. And I definitely believed it to be true, but I also knew that I was a mess, but I didn't even then know how much of a mess I was. But so within 60 days, we left the only job I had known in my adult life, the ministry that I love so dearly.
And you had been there how long?
18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Listed our house, sold our house, figured out what an RV was, bought it from Texas, shipped it to Georgia, realized we should have a truck too, went and found one of those, bought it, and moved and left in 60 days and sold our house, everything in it. Went from 4,000 square feet to 400, and our heads were spinning. That was quite the ejection.
Do you enjoy driving an RV?
It was rad.
Yeah. It's one trip I want to do with my family so badly. We got so close this last summer, and then we opted for Mexico. But I'm like, I want to experience it.
Oh, it's the best, man.
I want the kids in the back playing video games, doing whatever, like no seat belts, right? Yeah. And then I just want to sit there.
Yeah.
I love road trips. Man.
Trucker vibes. No, it was amazing. So we ended up traveling the country, looped the U.S. counterclockwise for a year. So went from Georgia back to Georgia within a year. And what it ended up being, and I had no idea what it was going to be, God did, was it was another year in treatment. And so I learned in that year God's mercy and his grace. So mercy was the day I left. It was, he doesn't give us what we deserve. So that was mercy. And then grace happened after that, which is he gives us more than we could ever deserve. So the mercy was I didn't deserve to fall apart in private. I deserved for that to be public. I deserved the public shame of that. I didn't deserve to get to do that in private, but for some reason he let me. And so he let me go away to the desert. He takes his kids to the desert sometimes to heal. And he let me, throughout the course of that year, finish the falling apart, like all the way to hitting bottom. Because I thought I was at bottom. I told you I was in denial, but there was another bottom to hit. And it was ugly. And it was going to be ugly publicly, but it was ugly privately. And the only one that got to be witness to that was pretty much my wife. And we were so grateful to God that he let that happen in private. I don't know why. And it was, but it was a year of getting sober. Because even when I left, I didn't think I was going to quit drinking. I was going to quit doing this and this and try to get some things back to, life back put together. But it ended up kind of culminating in a pretty powerful moment, which was God broke our truck down in Arizona. So Arizona was nowhere on our radar. Yeah. We didn't have any concept of what Arizona was. Who knows where Arizona is if you don't live here? But man, God broke us.
All you
down
hear
here.
is it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot, man. Who knows anything about it? But God answered one of my wife's prayers here because my daughter has eczema, and she had prayed for her whole life for her to be healed. And because our truck broke down here, she had to be exposed to the climate long enough for her complete body to change. So she was healed by God through the climate, which was an answer to prayer. And then while we were broke down, I told you that an addict always has to keep moving. So even in the RV, we'd move every week. week. We're in a new state, new city, and he stopped us in Arizona. So it's that train wreck. So boom, 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 everything. I just lost the ministry that he gave me. I just wrecked my family. The second round into addiction after you've been in ministry, the shame hits different because then you knew better. You're not a 20-year-old who's like heroically found your freedom. You're a grown man that knew better, had led people through it, and then you let yourself get back into it. So the shame hit different. Stopped me in Arizona to feel all that, and it was not good. And I wasn't quite ready to feel it, so I was keep drinking. So in Cottonwood, Arizona, I had a 3-day blackout drunk at the casino and came back to our RV after 2.5, 3 days of not remembering it. And was walking by the Verde River and going, it's the lowest I've ever been besides maybe that time in my 20s. And this time felt even lower because now I had a wife and girls in tow, and I had known better. I'd been the guy running the ministry. So I don't know that I've ever been suicidal, but that was pretty darn close. And I heard God saying while walking by that river, get in. I was like, what do you mean? I'm trying to over spiritualize this, and I just kept in my spirit, get in the river, get in the river, get in the river. So eventually it wouldn't stop. I was like, I think that's actually God, not just me trying to dramatize this. So I climb in the river with my clothes. I'm like, what now? And he said, go under. And I did. And I'm like, what now? And he goes, do it 7 times. And so he baptized me. The Holy Spirit baptized me in the Verde River, and I got out in all my clothes and walked back up the RV, and I'm standing in front of my wife, and she said, what are you doing? And I said, I think I just got baptized, and I think I'll never drink again. And that was March of 2022. And so this March will be 4 years. And, buddy, God changed everything, man.
Man, I want to meet your wife. She sounds awesome.
She's the best.
Yeah, man. She just goes with it.
She's been along for the ride.
She is. And she's just sitting there eating popcorn, watching you. Like, oh, here he comes. He's soaking wet. We'll figure out what happened here.
The coolest thing about God is, so my wife has a prophetic gifting. Before she ever met me in her youth, God told her that she was going to marry someone that's going to deal with all types of addiction, especially sex addiction. And so he began preparing her for me before she ever met me. And so when you talk about your soulmate, the one that God created for your soul to knit you as one, to help me make it through this life, man, there's no better.
Yeah.
And it was pretty miraculous.
So what after you baptized yourself, or the Lord baptized you, what was that conversation like? What was her?
She's so cool, man. So she, we went into.
Did she see any of this coming?
We didn't even know when the road trip was going to end, and we knew God was doing something. So she drove to Sedona from Cottonwood. She was listening to the song Jireh, crying her eyes out. And in that moment, she pulled back into the RV park, and she walked in. She goes, it's over. She goes, I think it's done. The work that God, I'll cry on that one.
So is this at the same, so she's driving back from Cottonwood while you're coming back from the casino? Is this the same time, or is it
This
different
is
times?
a week later.
Okay.
So I come in, tell her that I'm done drinking, and we kind of trying to figure out what are we going to do now.
Yeah.
And so she drives to Sedona, and she comes back, and she said, I think it's finished. We can go home now.
The whole year road trip, the year of
It was it. We knew that
rehab,
what God took us to do, he had just
ended when
he had just done it. Yeah. And so he spoke to her heart to say it's finished.
What were some of the things that happened along the road trip that stood out to you that you could look back and say that was rehab? That was those things. What were some of those moments like?
Oh man, so good. So it was a progression of him stripping things away, and that sounds way too clean. It was show up to an RV park, be drinking, and be a mess, and it would start to be a realization of even though I'm out of the environment, things are still a mess. One time when it got some of its worst was in an RV park. Some really shameful mistakes happened. We pull into the next RV park, and we're next to some Christian families running around with their kids. And we're like, man, like God starts to plant that stuff in there. And then you start to run, you meet people along the way, but I think most significantly I was still trying to hang on to the idea that we could still have a life afterwards, and we could still have the fun of drinking.
Right.
Can we put everything together and still hold on to this thing, God, is what I was thinking. And that casino time, you know, it was, and even a
Did
couple
you
weeks,
win any money, by the way?
no, I don't even
You
remember.
wouldn't remember?
I don't even remember it. I think a couple of times before that, I remember my wife saying, here's an embarrassing story. It's the first time I've had to help you get dressed and undressed. And so we were hitting points to where I'd never blacked out in my life, and I was starting to hit those blackouts. And so it was, if I was trying to hold on to that thing in life still, God was making it painfully obvious that this had to go too.
Yep.
And so that was that moment by the river of the last surrender. I shouldn't say the last, the next big surrender of to walk in freedom. It was going to take an all-in, fully immersive experience of surrendering to his will.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest thing. And that's how rehab looks. It really is a progressive journey to where he continues to show you things, and you continue to sacrifice, and you continue to face, okay, this next wall of, oh man, we got to do that too. And there's usually one good breakthrough moment, and then after that, then you start to walk with him.
What was your favorite stop on that trip?
Hands down, the Tetons. So
really?
one side is Jackson Hole, Wyoming. The other side is Idaho. It's the most beautiful mountain range that we've ever seen in our life. It was absolutely gorgeous. So that one, and then Yellowstone is a close number 2. But you can't believe this in your country. You feel so small in a humbling way. Like God really helps you realize with nature how tiny we are, and that's a really good feeling.
Yeah. How long did you stay at the Tetons? Were you guys like week, couple days?
Couple weeks. So yeah, we'd stay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a couple weeks I think. So we'd go on the other side, stay on the Idaho side. We drove across the Teton Pass, pulling a 42-foot RV. That's another story in itself.
So you had a hauler.
Yeah,
You
so
didn't have the RV.
Yeah, so that's what you call a motorhome. It's a Class A motorhome.
Gotcha.
Fifth wheel's the gooseneck that goes in the back of the truck on a dually truck. And so we had that. I would drive the truck, 42-foot home behind us, and then my wife and girls were in a SUV, so they were chasing me around the country. So we were a 2-car mobile family. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And that's, again, so mercy was he allowed us to do that in private, and then grace was my treatment center was seeing national parks, like wild. So we were also making lifelong memories with our children along the way, which is
I love that in
priceless.
Romans. Paul says that even to anybody that God, there's enough of a case for the Lord in nature.
Oh man, that's exactly
And, I mean,
right.
you got to see that on full display.
Yeah, you can't not think there's a creator and a designer of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So lastly, what do you say to guys listening to this that might be struggling or might be holding on to that one thing? What advice do you have? Even, I mean, if you want to go down I know there's a lot of guys. I'm going to take that sin to the grave. Like, you know what? I can hold on to that one. I've confessed 95% of them. I don't know what any direction you want to go with. What would you tell guys?
Man, so I think about it like this in the sense of we have an enemy, and our enemy has a really, really clear mission for his existence. It is to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Just like that cancer that I mentioned in my life. You talk about our enemy wants to, like cancer won't stop in a body until everything is gone. It eats it one cell at a time. It destroys it. And so our enemy is the same way. Sin is a progressive disease, just like addiction is, just like cancer is. And so when you think about our enemy who wants nothing more to take you out, that's it. That's where his happiness comes from, is to end your life, to destroy your family in the meantime, and to not stop until every bit of you is gone. And the most successful way he can do that is to fight the battle in the dark, where he's Lord, where he's the most comfortable, where that's his space, where our God, the God of gods, lives in light. And so when you talk about moving towards the light, when we try to fight and find any freedom, have any semblance of a life in the darkness, we're going to lose every time. And so what that means is to step from darkness into light, is to drag ourself and those shameful secrets into the light. And that happens by opening our mouth and saying it out loud. I'll give you a good example real quick, if we got a moment for one last story for 2 minutes. I was in that treatment center, and there was a guy named Steven. One of my most shameful secrets that I brought that I thought I was never going to tell anybody, and I'll tell you and anybody sitting here listening, was a story in my youth where I wasn't abused, I was the abuser. And so you talk about shame. Being abused is shameful. Being the abuser is extra shameful. But I was carrying it. It was fueling my addiction. And I decided I was going to be brave enough one day to say it in front of a group of guys. I was going to say that I had molested somebody. I was going to say that out loud. That was a terrifying moment. And I remember standing in front of this room of guys and saying it out loud. And what you could hope after that level of bravery is that everyone's going to come around you and say, attaboy. Well, there's a guy named Steven that said, hey, man, can I talk to you outside? And so I'm thinking, man, he's going to say, I relate to that, you know? He pulled me outside, and I remember I was standing against a brick wall, and he goes, now that you've said that, you're disgusting, you're a pervert, and I want nothing to do with you. Stay away from me. Talk about wrecking your soul, man. Mm-hmm. But I remember thinking, what a gift he gave me. Because there was going to be a Stephen everywhere I went. Stephen wasn't going to be at my Thanksgiving meals. He wasn't going to go on with me in the future. But if he could control me, the fear of what he could say about me, back to God's security and our insecurity. If my security was based on his response to me telling my story and releasing of that shame, then he was always going to be in control of me. The Stephen in every group, every person was going to be in control of me. But if God says in Galatians 5:1 that it's for freedom that I set you free, stand firm then and don't let yourself be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. It's what does God think about me? And Stephen gave me a gift, and he rejected me. And I said, okay, I got through that. And so what I'd say to anyone's listening is there may be a Stephen out there, or there may be an Edward and a Joe that says, attaboy. But either way, it doesn't matter what either of us say. Right. It matters that your Father wants you to be free, like it said in your word. He provided you a path to freedom. He was crucified on a cross so that we could be free. And so go get it.
Well, with that, this has been awesome. I've enjoyed chatting with you, buddy. It's an awesome testimony. I could listen to you talk all night.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Well, thank you. Thanks for showing up.
Praise God.
Yeah, it's good to get to know you a little bit more. Looking forward to being in Timothy with you for another year plus, I guess.
Let's do it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and see you Tuesday.
Let's go.
No, see you Tuesday. You're supposed to say see you Tuesday back. See,
okay.
I thought, okay, we'll try it again. Okay. This has been, fantastic. Great testimony, and see you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the Forge Podcast.